Welcome to the deep dive. So, you've reached out because you're looking to really sharpen how you connect with people,
Yeah, whether that's getting ready for a crucial meeting or just handling team stuff better.
or even just wanting to, well, understand folks better day to day. So, for you, we're really digging into interpersonal communication skills today.
Exactly. And our source material is pretty interesting. It's excerpts from Interpersonal Communication Skills by Command and Control.
Now, that title sounds maybe a bit intense, right? Command and control.
It does, yeah.
Hmm.
You might picture something really rigid. But while it is structured, what's surprising is how practical it is for you. These ideas, first thought up for high-stakes situations, focusing a lot on safety,
Uh-huh.
they actually give you really useful, actionable insights you can use, well, right now. Doesn't matter what your job is or your relationship.
Totally agree. And we're not going to get bogged down in like military speak or anything. Our mission here for you in this deep dive is to pull out the really useful bits from the source.
Kind of a shortcut, yeah, to
Yeah.
get the core ideas of what makes communication work effectively.
Right. Looking at both sides, how you take information in and how you put information out.
So why bother focusing on this stuff? Why should you invest the time? Well, this material is super clear. Strong communication. It's like the bedrock of success
Right.
at every single career level.
Think about your day, right? No matter what you do for a living, you're talking to people, interacting constantly.
And it's not just about, climbing the corporate ladder or whatever.
No.
The source really points out how your ability to communicate clearly directly affects how well you actually do your job.
Yeah, it talks about setting clear expectations, which, let's be honest, can save everyone a ton of hassle and stress, right?
Well, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's more than just being understood. The material really stresses that good interpersonal skills mean you're better prepared to handle tense moments.
Or even guide behavior if you need to.
Exactly. These aren't just like nice-to-haves. They're pretty essential for keeping things running smoothly and positively.
And speaking of positive, the source notes that when you communicate better, your relationships, work, home, everywhere, they just become more productive, more satisfying for you.
Think about the misunderstandings you could avoid. That means less conflict, clearer picture of what people need from you or what you need from them.
Okay, but here's where it gets really, really interesting for you, I think. Beyond the career stuff and better relationships, this resource highlights something you might not immediately connect: safety.
Yeah, it actually argues that clearly understanding others and making yourself understood, especially in tricky situations, can genuinely make a difference to your well-being.
It makes sense when you think about the source's origins that military focus on zero ambiguity comes from situations where mistakes are, well, critical.
And it shows how even seemingly small misunderstandings in our lives can actually have pretty big consequences for you sometimes.
Okay, so let's unpack this for you. The resource breaks communication down into two basic parts: receiving and sending. Seems simple enough.
It does, but the key point they make is that you're constantly doing one or the other, often both at the exact same time in every single interaction you have.
Right, that's a crucial takeaway for you. It's not passive. You're not just like hearing words tumble out or automatically saying what you think.
No, it's a constant back and forth. And what this material really drives home, especially thinking about safety and staying in control of a situation, is that you need to be aware of both parts all the time.
You have to actively work at receiving well and sending well.
Precisely.
Okay, let's start with the receiving part, how you take information in. And the source makes a fascinating point straight off the bat for you. It says the first critical bit isn't what you hear, it's what you see.
That's it. For you, understanding nonverbal cues is framed as the absolute first vital step in receiving communication. What you see in the other person, and just as importantly, what they see in you. That sets the whole foundation for the conversation that follows.
Yeah.
It really sets the stage for your interaction.
And they break these nonverbal skills down for you. Four key things: positioning, posturing, observing, and listening. Let's kick off with positioning. This isn't about, like, power plays in your conversations, is it?
Not really, no, not in this context for you. Positioning here means physically placing yourself, sort of strategically,
Right.
in relation to the other person or group,
Okay.
so you can manage the situation effectively. The source mentions looking directly, giving your full attention to whoever you're talking to or whatever area you're supervising. It shows you're engaged.
It shows you're present, involved. Yeah, that makes sense for you.
Yeah.
It's hard to feel heard if someone's glancing at their watch or phone.
Exactly.
Eh.
Okay, next up is posturing. Now, this one might sound like it's about you projecting authority or something,
Yeah, a little bit.
but here, for you, posturing is more about how you convey interest and confidence just through your body language, how you
Got it.
hold yourself. The resource points out three main things for you: standing erect, getting rid of distracting habits, and leaning forward. Standing tall is directly linked to showing you're interested and confident.
Right. And what about those distracting behaviors you mentioned? I think we can all probably relate to having some of those. What should you be mindful of?
Well, the source gives some really common examples for you, like biting your nails, fiddling with your hair,
And clicking.
pen clicking, definitely, jingling keys or coins in your pocket.
Uh-huh.
They seem small, right?
Yeah.
But they can make you seem nervous
Hmm.
or like you lack confidence,
Yeah.
which is probably not the impression you want to give.
No.
As the material says quite plainly, if you can't stand steady, others might see you as less confident in that interaction.
Ouch. It's okay. Guilty as charged on the pen clicking sometimes. So what about leaning forward for you? That sounds more like active engagement.
It is. Leaning forward slightly is presented as a way for you to complete that sort of in-control, attentive posture. It shows you're paying attention, focused on what's being said to you.
Hmm.
And interestingly, it's also framed as a sign of respect you can show the speaker.
Okay, so you've got your positioning right, you're standing tall, not fidgeting. Now comes observing for you. This sounds like more than just a quick glance around during your interactions.
Oh, absolutely for you. Observing in this context is your ability to really notice and understand how people look, how they act, and what's going on in the environment around you.
Okay.
By observing carefully, you can pick up on really important clues about how someone might be feeling or potential problems, sometimes before anyone even says anything to you.
And they break this down for you too, right? 4 steps. Looking carefully, making inferences, normal or abnormal, and trouble or no trouble. Let's start with looking carefully for now.
Right. This is about you tuning into those initial visual signals, someone's appearance, their behavior, the setting you're both in.
Mm-hmm.
These nonverbal cues can be super important in helping you interpret the verbal stuff that comes later. You might notice, say, a sudden change in how someone's dressed or acting differently than usual that tells you something's maybe a bit off.
Got it. So you see something, then the next step is making inferences. This sounds a bit like jumping to conclusions for you, though.
It could be, but the resource defines an inference for you more as an evaluation based purely on what you're seeing. It's about you trying to figure out how someone's feeling, maybe their relationship to others nearby, their general energy level, just by watching.
Okay.
Like if you notice the energy level in a group you're with suddenly shooting up, you might infer that things are getting tense.
Right, reading the room, but with a specific goal.
Mhm.
Then comes normal or abnormal for you. How do you work that out in your interactions?
This step is all about you comparing what you're currently seeing with what's, well, typical or expected in that specific situation or for that person.
Hmm.
Abnormal behavior for you is just any change from that usual pattern. Recognizing those deviations is a really key part of you figuring out if something might be wrong.
And that leads right into the last step. Trouble or no trouble for you. Basically making a call based on whether you spotted something abnormal.
Exactly for you. It's the outcome of your observation process. You deciding, okay, what kind of situation am I actually dealing with here based on those normal versus abnormal cues?
It's a logical flow. Notice, compare, decide.
Precisely for you. Now, the last piece of these nonverbal receiving skills for you is listening.
Mhm.
And the source really hammers home that this isn't passive. It's not just letting sound waves hit your ears.
Right, for you it's an active skill. And it involves 4 actions. Suspending judgment, picking out keywords, assessing intensity, and determining the mood. Suspending judgment sounds tough for you. We all have biases, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. It can be difficult for you. But the resource argues that for you to truly listen effectively, you have to try and temporarily put aside your own preconceived notions, your ideas about the person, the topic, whatever.
Be open-minded.
Yeah. That's essential for you to actually hear what's being said without immediately filtering it through your own opinions or experiences.
Okay, makes sense. Next for you is picking out keywords. What's the idea behind you doing that?
The thinking here is that people often signal what's really going on in their head through specific words they choose when they talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
So by actively listening for those key words or phrases, you might get clues about their underlying thoughts, maybe even predict what they might do next.
Like the examples they gave.
Yeah, like if you hear words like payback or getting even, Those could definitely be red flags for potential negative actions later on.
Definitely words to clock for you. Then there's assessing intensity. This sounds like it's about you tuning into the emotional volume, yeah.
Exactly for you.
Yeah.
Part of listening well is also you recognizing the level of emotion coming through, how intense their feelings are, and that often shows up in how loud they are, how fast they're talking to you.
Right, when people get emotional, speech often speeds up, gets louder.
Typically, yes. And finally for you, determining the mood. Is this just you figuring out if they seem happy or sad?
Or is it more?
It's a bit more nuanced for you, yeah.
Yeah.
Effective listening also means you identifying the speaker's overall emotional state. Are they generally positive right now, negative, or sort of neutral?
Okay.
And the resource highlights a really crucial point for you. Mood guides response. How someone is feeling is a major signal for how you should respond to them.
Got it. So you've learned how to really receive information, nonverbals, active listening. Now let's shift to you sending information, specifically using what they call verbal assessing skills. But the interesting twist is the first goal here is still for you to receive more info.
It is, yeah. It's a neat way to frame it for you. These verbal sending skills are initially tools for you to gather more intelligence, essentially. While you're talking, your aim is strategically getting the other person to elaborate so you get the full picture.
And they highlight two main tools for you here: acknowledging and asking questions. Let's start with you acknowledging. What does that actually involve for you in a conversation?
Acknowledging for you means you basically reflect back what you've heard them say, what you sense they're feeling, and what you understand their main point to be.
So showing you get it.
Exactly. This is where your active listening and observation skills really pay off for you. You're showing them you haven't just heard the words, but you've picked up on the underlying message, the emotions they're trying to convey to you.
And it can be simple, right? Just restating it in your own words.
Often, yeah. Just paraphrasing what you've seen and heard to confirm you're both on the same wavelength. So if I understand correctly, you're feeling frustrated because that kind of thing.
Right. Sort of like, okay, I'm tracking with you and here's what I'm getting. Now, what about you asking questions? Seems pretty straightforward for you.
Well, asking questions is your go-to move for you when acknowledging isn't enough. When you genuinely need more details to fully grasp the content, the feeling, or the intended meaning. It's vital for you to get to the bottom of problems or figure out exactly what someone needs from you, especially if they're being a bit vague or unclear.
And the resource mentions the classic 5 W's.
Right? Who, what, when, where, why, and also how. These are key areas for you to probe with your questions to flesh out the picture.
And crucially, while you're asking these questions, you should still be using all those nonverbal receiving skills, yeah, observing them.
Absolutely for you. Keep watching their body language, their facial expressions. Compare what they're saying with what you're seeing. Do they match up?
Good point.
That comparison can give you really valuable extra insight. The whole point of you using these verbal assessing skills, acknowledging and questioning, is to get that complete picture, not just words, but context, emotion, the real meaning.
Okay, so you've sent to understand. Now it's time to think about getting results. The resource talks about 3 kinds of results you might be aiming for in your communication: handling requests, making requests, and reinforcing behavior. Let's start with you, handling requests.
Yeah, the material suggests a 2-step process for you here. First, you check out the request itself. Is it legitimate? Does it fall within the rules or guidelines, whatever context you're in?
Right. Step 1, assess the request.
Step 2, respond. And this is key. You respond with a reason. Whether you say yes, no, or maybe I need to look into that, you always give the because.
Why is that because so critical for you? Seems like sometimes people just want a yes or no.
Maybe, but giving a valid reason isn't about you being weak or justifying yourself unnecessarily. The resource argues it's actually the best way for you to stop things escalating.
Oh, okay.
People are generally more likely to accept a decision, even one they don't like, if they understand the logic behind it. It prevents it feeling arbitrary.
That makes a lot of sense for you. And the source also flags the importance of you keeping your word when you handle requests.
Oh, massively. It stresses that if you tell someone you'll check something out for them, or you promise to do something, you absolutely have to follow through and get back to them.
Yeah, nothing kills your credibility faster than you dropping the ball on promises.
Exactly.
Okay, now let's flip it. What about when you need to make a request? There are 2 types mentioned: polite requests and direct requests, or orders. When should you use which one in your interactions?
The advice is pretty clear for you. Use polite requests whenever you possibly can. It shows respect.
Okay.
Direct requests or orders, they definitely have a place for you, but they inherently limit the other person's choices. So you usually save those for when politeness hasn't achieved the necessary result or the situation demands it.
And for both kinds of requests, there are still two steps for you: assessing the situation and taking action. That assessing part sounds familiar again.
It should for you. Before you jump in with any request, the resource advises you again. Use your observation skills. Assess the person, the environment you're in. This includes thinking about face saving, phrasing your request in a way that doesn't make the other person feel embarrassed or put on the spot. You want them to be able to agree without losing face.
Right. And importantly,
Importantly, the material states that your requests work best when you don't immediately follow them with threats, explicit or implied. You respond to the content and feeling of their reaction, not just bulldoze through.
that's really useful advice for you. Okay, finally, reinforcing behavior. This is about you encouraging the good stuff and discouraging the bad stuff, basically.
That's the gist of it for you, yeah. The source differentiates between you using positive and negative reinforcement.
Okay, tell me about positive reinforcement first.
Positive reinforcement for you should be strong, clear, and immediate.
Right.
Use words and nonverbal signals like a smile, a nod, maybe a specific compliment that clearly show approval, support, or agreement with what they just said or did.
Make it noticeable.
Yeah, it needs to stand out from your usual demeanor so that definitely register it as praise.
And negative reinforcement for you, how does that work?
Negative reinforcement for you is about discouraging unwanted behavior. Again, it should be strong, clear, and immediate. Make disapproving statements or clearly point out the negative consequences of their actions.
So direct and unambiguous.
Exactly. But here's a really vital follow-up point for you. The moment that negative behavior starts to shift towards positive,
Uh-huh.
you immediately switch gears and start using positive reinforcement for that improvement. Catch them being good, essentially.
Right, yeah. Okay, the resource also talks about you depersonalizing conflict and personalizing cooperation. What's the distinction for you there?
Depersonalizing conflict for you means you frame rules or consequences as impersonal. It's not you versus them. It's about the rule, the regulation, the law. You might say something like, look, it's nothing personal. It's just the procedure.
Takes the personal antagonism out of it.
Hopefully, yeah. Personalizing cooperation is the flip side. You approach people assuming mutual respect, not suspicion. And when you see good stuff, you make your positive reinforcement specific and personal.
Like the example.
Yeah, like, Henley, I really appreciated how you handled that conversation with Johnson. It's specific, it's personal praise.
Got it. And the last point under getting results for you is presenting choices. How does that help you?
Presenting choices for you is framed as a way to help people take ownership of their actions. You give them options.
Okay.
You basically offer a choice. Cooperate and get a positive outcome, or don't cooperate and face the natural consequences. You frame it as, it's up to you.
So it puts the ball in their court.
Exactly. And the advice is crucial here. Don't make it sound like a win-lose ultimatum from you. Try to frame it as a potential win-win.
Like the cleaning example they use.
Yeah, instead of you saying, clean this cell or you lose privileges, win-lose, you might say, it's time to get this cleaned up so you can earn your hygiene points for the week. It's your choice. Potential win-win.
Right, it reframes it completely. Okay, so just to quickly recap for you listening, we've really dug into how vital it is for you to effectively receive information, really tuning into those nonverbal cues first, and then actively listening.
And also how you can strategically send information, often with the initial goal of just understanding the situation more fully.
Then we looked at those practical steps for you. Handling requests fairly by giving reasons, making your own requests respectfully when you can, and the huge impact of you reinforcing behavior, both the good and the bad.
And the bottom line for you is that by consciously understanding and practicing these skills, you really can communicate more clearly, build much stronger relationships, and just be more effective in pretty much every part of your life.
It's about you being more deliberate, more aware in all those daily interactions.
More intentional.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. Consider how deliberately applying these communication principles techniques born from, pretty high-pressure command and control environments, how might using them consciously, even subtly, actually shift the dynamics in your everyday conversations?
Yeah, how might just focusing a bit more deliberately on, say, your posture or making sure you give a reason when you say no, how might that change how people respond to you?
Exactly. What's one small nonverbal cue? Maybe from that list we discussed, positioning, posturing, observing, listening habits that you could focus on improving first, starting today to become a more effective communicator.
Something to think about.
Definitely. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.